Hello everyone, this is Udit. Welcome back to my channel. Today in this video we are going to design another LLD problem, and the topic of today's problem is locker management system. We'll go into the details of it, what the problem is about, what's the system. We'll also see what my solution, what design patterns I have used, what solid principles I have followed, what are different design choices I have made. But those all things we'll definitely discuss throughout the video. So I definitely request you to stick through the video till the end, so that you understand every aspect of the design which I have created, right? So yeah, let's not waste much time. Let's directly dive deep into the code. But before that, I would like to tell you one thing. Like, many people have asked me to, for one-on-one sessions, for mentorships, for some LLD mock interviews and many things like that. So I have actually signed up on enginebogie.com, and over there you can go and you can just book any kind of a session with me, 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever you think you need, a mock interview, a mentorship, or a teaching session. You can go over there and you can book. I'll put the link of my profile in the description of the video. You can definitely get it from there, and you can book it. So that's about it. Let's just directly dive into the problem statement now. So as I said, this is a locker management system we are going to build. A locker management system, it's like for an e-commerce store. If you're little aware of the system or a lockers kind of thing, it is something like you can place an order on some website, and then you can ask the website to deliver your order to a locker instead of your home. So it's like convenience kind of a thing for you. We don't want to go much into the product or something like that. We'll try to see what requirements do we have, but on a very high level, it's something like for an e-commerce store, you can order something and then you can ask them to deliver that order to a locker. Now, as I said, while performing a purchase, the users can opt for their package to get delivered at a locker system close to their place. The delivery person, whoever will be coming to deliver the package, they will put the package into the locker, and OTP will be generated, and then a user can then go back to the locker, and then they can get the item back. As per the user convenience, as I said, they can visit and get the parcel. Further, there's another requirement or another use case or scenario over here which is mentioned. Like, if the user wants to return the goods, right? If the user wants to return the package, they can also visit the locker. They can place the item. In this case, now delivery guy will get the OTP, and they can then use it to unlock the locker. So it's like both the users and delivery persons will be using the system. When delivery person puts the item into the locker for the user will get the OTP. They can visit and get the item, and if the user puts the item for return, delivery person will get the OTP, and then the delivery person can go and get the item back. So in both the cases, there is a person who is putting the item, there is a person who is getting the OTP and getting the item back, right? That's one of the I would say simplification of the problem. If we talk about some of the expectations that were given, so person asked the system to allocate a locker for a given package. Assume random allocation for now, but the system should be extensible, and it should be able to accommodate different kind of allocation tomorrow. So that is already given in the requirements. The system must generate an OTP or a code and send it to the user along with the locker details. The user can then enter the OTP and a locker details to unlock the locker. Once the package is taken out, the locker can be allocated for any other user. Users can use the locker for returning an item. OTP code will be sent to the delivery person in this case. Operations admin can view and vacate all the lockers which are in use for more than 3 days. Now again, there is some evaluation criteria here, which is like code readability, extensibility. These are all like very generic evaluation criteria which you will have in all the interviews that you will give. Extensibility, readability, good usage of design patterns, separation of concerns, following solid principles, and stuff like that. So I would say whenever you are practicing, whenever you are learning anything, try to make sure you touch upon these aspects, because they will be there in almost every interview you give. So that's about the problem statement. I hope that's clear now. Now let's see what design I have created for the problem. So first, let's start with the model. See, modeling is one of the most important thing of every LLD. If you can come up with the right modeling, then I would say almost half of the work is done, right? So that's why in most of my videos I try to cover the model first. So let's see the model first here also. And whenever we are trying to come up with the model, we first try to identify what are the entities, what are the user personas, or those kind of things are there in the system. So we have a locker management system. First of all, we have a user, we have a delivery person. So these two particular, or these two entities are already there. I should not call it a user, I should call it a buyer. A buyer, a delivery person, both are users of the locker system, right? So that's one area. Second area is there's something called locker itself. Then there is slot. These kind of things are there. So if you see, that's the exact way I have created my entities. So there's a buyer. A buyer is a kind of a locker user. So I have created a common abstract class which is locker user, which will be implemented by both delivery person as well as the buyer, because both of them, they will be the user of the locker. And what does a user of the locker has? It has a contact details, so that we can contact the person for delivering the OTP, right? So as again, what a contact would have, it will have a phone number and it will have an email. So that's about the locker user, and that's about the delivery person. Delivery person will also be a kind of a locker user. Right now we do not have any differentiating details or any different properties for delivery person and buyer. So you can argue that we could have created a single class called a user, and we could have put everything into them. But I thought of creating different classes, because the use cases are very different. Delivery person will be doing a lot of different things, buyer will be doing some other different things. So that's why I've created different types of classes. Contact classes, contact class I have already shown you. Then there is something called locker. So there is a class called locker. A locker will have an ID, a locker will have slots. In the constructor we have just taken ID in the input, and we are assigning the ID. We are not taking slots in the input. I would say it's a very arguable thing most of the times, like whether you want to create an add slot method or not. But I discussed this with the interviewer, and interviewer asked me to use it this way, so I created it this way. They wanted the slot to be, we should be able to add slot at the runtime, so that's why I've created this way. But you could have taken the slots in the constructor also, and you could have made it immutable. So but yeah, let's go it this way because interviewer wanted it. So we have an add slot method which can add a new slot into the slots list. So we do not have a remove slot right now because we do not want to remove any slot, but yeah, if there's an add slot, there can be a remove slot, but again, that was not the part of the requirements. To save the time in the interview also, I did not went into that thing, because that's first of all, it's a very small thing, and second thing is it's not worth to waste time over there. So whatever interviewer wanted, I just put it there. Then we have get available slots. It is just returning all the available slots which are there in the locker. So if you think about it, this will be needed whenever you're trying to put any package or something like that, right? You will have to find what all slots are available, so that you can put a package into that. So we'll see the usage of it when we go to that code, but I'm just giving you an idea like where this code could have been, or where this method we could have been using, right? So this method is there, get available slots. It gives back all the list of available slots. How does it find it? It goes through each of the slot. If it is available, it just add it to the result and then return the result back to the user, back to the client, whoever is calling it. That's about the locker. Then we have the slot. I'll come to the other classes, but just since we just saw locker as a list of slots, so let's go to the slot first. What would the slot has? Slot would have an ID, slot would have a size. What are the available size of the slot? In which locker is this present? I have created this reverse mapping just to ease up, the fetch of some things. You can avoid, the reverse mapping. I generally like to keep this reverse mapping in my LLDs because it helps me in, writing the other code very easily. So that's just created for reverse mapping. It's not required. You can implement or achieve the same thing in some other way also. The next item is locker item, like what is the current item placed into the locker and on what date it was allocated. So these two things I have kept immutable. Other things, if you see, they are immutable, but these two things are mutable because the current locker item, the item which is placed in the locker right now, it keeps changing, right? So that's why I have kept it mutable. Similarly, the allocation date will keep changing whenever a new item is put, so that is also kept as mutable. Now if you see, so there is a constructor which I have created, and then there is a method called allocate package, because a slot will have a will have to support allocating a package to it, right? So we have a allocate package method which is taking a locker item in the input, and if the locker item is not null, that means the slot is not empty. There is some bug or there is something because of which this call might have happened. So we return an exception that slot is already occupied. If that's not the case, if the slot is free, if there is nothing in the current locker item, then we allocate it and then we mark the current locker item as new locker item. Now deallocate slot is there. It will not do anything. It will just deallocate the current locker item, Is available, again, is not doing much. It's just, you know, checking whether the current locker item is null or not. As the name suggests, this is to delocate it, this is to check the availability. Now if you see, you know, this class is not this method is made thread safe, but generally whenever you're doing LLD interview, don't think too much about the thread safety unless asked by the interviewer. I've seen so many comments on my, you know, videos. People are asking like, why don't you create your thread safe, you know, thread safe designs and all. I don't create them because that's not the expectation of the interviewer when you're doing LLD or machine coding rounds 99% of the times. If they are going to talk about thread safety and all, then there's a separate interview altogether they will do, which will focus mostly on the thread safety stuff. Over there, design patterns, design principles, they will not be a very bigger goal of the interview. The goal of the interview to see how you understand the thread safety concepts. So these two interviews generally happen, you know, differently. Either they focus on the extensibility, design patterns, design principles way, or they focus on thread safety thing. So whenever you know, you're doing things, think about what you are trying to achieve. Do you want to include thread safety into it or not? If the interviewer has not explicitly asked you to implement thread safety, don't worry too much about it. If you really want, you can ask the interviewer while writing anything, like, or maybe you can just, you know, call it out. Like for example, if I had not written synchronized over here, then this could have been the this would not have been the thread safe method, right? Then what I would do in general is I would just call out to the interviewer like, this method is not thread safe, do you want me to go into that? And most of the times, as I said, interviewer would say no, and or they would say, right now let's not focus on the thread safety, we'll touch upon it towards the end of the interview if we get the time. So my suggestion is, don't think too much about the thread safety whenever you're doing LLD interviews unless explicitly asked to you. Cool. So but yeah, like I put synchronized here because, you know, this could have been there could have been a thread safety issue. So to avoid that, I have put this synchronized. But you will not find it everywhere, because again, that's not the goal of the interview. Now so another thing that we have in the design is a locker item interface. This is created as an interface and not a class, because you can have different types of locker items. You know, right now we are just putting orders or packages that the user order on the website into these locker slots, but tomorrow we can have multiple things. So that's why it is created as locker item. And what does a locker item has? What do we really care about is the size of it, because or tomorrow you can have maybe volume of it. You know, if you have, let's say, have some liquid item or something, or there is something called weight, which you care about, because, you know, different lockers can have different kind of I would say material and all. And if you put higher weight item, then it may break, right? So for that, you can have get size, get weight, get volume, a lot of things, you know. But these are the properties we are looking for. But right now we only care about the size, so that's why I've just put size over here. And then there is one implementation which is called package. And you know, if you order something on the e-commerce, you get the package, right? So that's how I've named it as package. And package would have an ID, package would have a size, and locker item also needed a size, so that's why we have created size over here. And a package would, you know, take the size and the ID in the constructor, and it will just initialize it. So that's the I would say one of the implementation of locker item. Now these are the, you know, almost all the model classes I have created. I hope you understand them. Now let's touch upon other aspects. Let's see what other things I have created in the design. Whenever you see such kind of a problem, right, I would say there are different kinds of problems which are done in LLD. One kind of problems are games. They are solved in a little different way. There's a game loop, you know, and you solve it via that. You can watch other videos of mine, you know, chess game and something like that. I'll put the links of those videos in the description, so you can see how games kind of a LLD can be approached. But these kind of problems can be done in this way. You know, there's nothing like game loop. Here the call flow starts with controllers, right? So there's something called controllers. In general, you will have controllers, services, repositories. Okay, these are three very high level and main, I would say, layers of a design in such kind of problems. So controllers is like API thing, where you will define your APIs, where all the API methods would land. You know, all those API kind of methods would be here. Then service would be having a business logic, you know, where the actual logic will reside to do some calculation, to do some business specific thing. And the repository is actually the storage part. Generally you have, you know, databases and all, or if you want, you can create an in-memory repository, just like I have created it for this problem. But repository is generally the storage part. So these are the general three layers of things that you would have in most of the LLDs of such kinds. Few more things you would have, you know, strategies to have the extensibility in the design. We'll just see how we achieved extensibility using strategies. and then you can have some other packages like helper classes, exceptions, and those kind of stuff. But on very important thing, so 3 very important things that you would have is controller, repository, and service. So that's what we also have over here in this design. So as I said, controller is the API. So your call starts with the API. So let's see first of all how controllers are implemented, and let's start with the locker controller. So locker controller, it is taking 2 dependencies. One is the locker service and the other thing is the OTP service. Locker controller has few API methods: create locker, create slot, get available slots, unlock slot, delocate slot. So it's all about the locker thing that we have done. You could argue that why slot methods are here, why don't we have slot controller? So the thing is, like, it's all about the thought process. Like, you can create multiple controllers depending on at which area you want to break. Do you want to keep the single responsibility here as a locker, or do you want to break the single responsibility of slot out of this? So I have kept both the things into one because the class is right now small, the responsibilities are small. I thought it does not make sense to break lockers and slots into different classes. But tomorrow, if let's say the use cases increase, the class become really large, and you think the 2 responsibilities are getting affected by putting them into the same class, you can definitely split them and create different class for the slot. But right now, because the responsibilities are really less, so creating a different class altogether for slots and different service for slots did not make sense, and that's why I have not created it. So create slot, what it does is it makes a call to the locker service. What locker service does, locker service asks the locker repository, because what does a create locker mean? We have to store the locker into the storage, right? We have to create the locker into the storage. So we ask the storage or the locker repository to create the locker. And if you see the locker repository method, there is one implementation of locker repository which is in memory. So right now I have not used any database, but I have used interfaces for the repositories, because tomorrow if you want to replace them with the databases, you can just have one more implementation of a database and you can implement the interface. So you don't have to change all of your classes. You will just have to add one more class for the database. So it comes over here for the create locker. It does nothing. It just creates a new locker object and it put the locker into its own list, in memory list, right? That's a very, I would say, a straightforward thing. Then we have the create slot. Create slot, again, it takes a locker in the input for which locker we want to create a slot and a slot size, and then it asks the locker service to create the slot. So create slot does what? It creates a slot, it adds the slot to the the locker that we have, and that's all it does. Then we have a available slots list. So again, the controller has a method called get available slots. It returns all the available slots that we have in the system. So again, what it does, it calls the locker service to get all the available slots. Locker repository stores the lockers, and all the lockers have the slots, right? So first of all, we have to fetch the lockers and then we have to fetch all the slots. That's what locker repository is doing, because lockers are stored in the locker repository. So we have to delegate this call to the locker repository. In the locker repository, if you see, we go through all the lockers and we get all the available slots for each locker. That's what I showed you earlier, right? A locker implements all available slots, and that's where we are using it. We are fetching all the available slots for each locker and then merging all the results and then sending the result back to the user, whoever is calling it. Now unlock slot is a little, I would say, is a little tricky method over here, because when you're saying unlocking a slot, it is not actually delocating it. It is just like slot is closed, there's a gate of the slot, you have to open that gate, right? So that is like unlocking. It is not delocating, it is just unlocking the slot. So what do you do unlocking? You just enter the OTP first, you validate the OTP, and then you unlock it, right? So that's what we are doing here. We get the OTP in the input, we get the slot which we have to open, and what we have to do, we have to validate the OTP, right? So what we are saying, we are asking the OTP service to validate it. I'll just show you in a minute how it is validating it. But after validating it, what we have to do, we have to open these slots actually, but that will be some physical entity. So that's what I have not created any class for it right now, but I have just put a comment like there will be some physical entity which will actually open the gate of the slot, right? That will be there. So if you see the validate OTP method, validate OTP method, what it does is for each of the slot, while we are actually creating the package, or while we are allocating the package to a slot, we are generating the OTP and we are storing the OTP in the slot repository. And that's why when we are validating it, we are using the same slot OTP repository to get the OTP, and when we are checking if it is the same or not. What I'll do is I'll just not go into the details of it right now, how those storage and all is done. That we'll see when the allocation allocate package call we get. But right now, if I just showed you the basic thing, you know, when you're getting the validate, it is checking the originally stored OTP and then validating the new OTP that we have got against that stored OTP to see if they are equal or not. If they are equal, we return true. If they are not equal, we return false. So that's why, I mean, returning true means we were able to unlock it. Returning false means we were not able to unlock it. Then we have a deallocate slot. This actually method, this is the actual method which actually empties the slot, you know, which actually removes the package from the slot or locker item from the slot. So what it does, it again asks the locker service to deallocate the slot, and what the slot has to do, it just says deallocate slot itself, right? And we already saw the implementation. It just marks the current item as null. Slot gets deallocated by this method. Now I would say these are all the methods of locker class, locker flow. Locker controller flow. Another flow we have is order flow. You know, whenever there's a new order comes in, we have to allocate the locker for it, right? So that's why there's an order controller. Order controller takes OTP service, notification service, locker service. These are some of the services which it takes. Because if you think about the order flow, right? Again, order will have to do a lot of things, but in terms of locker, what it will have to do, it will have to first of all allocate a locker. Then it will have to generate an OTP and then have to send the OTP via the notification service, right? So that's why there are three services which are there in this controller. There's a constructor which is just, you know, initializing those three I would say services, and then there's one API method called allocate locker. In the allocate locker, we get the buyer, you know, for which buyer the allocation is being done and what locker item we have to put. First of all, we ask the locker service to allocate a slot for it. Again, let's go into the allocate slot. Allocate slot, what it gets a locker item, because we have to find out what slot we can use for this locker item, right? So that's why locker item is passed over here. First of all, we fetch all the available slots, right, from the repository. We get, like, whichever slot is available, we get it. Now we have, let's say, 100 slots available. Not all 100 can be used, right? It depends on all the various factors like size, weight, volume, what slots can be, you know, used. So that's why we use a slot filtering strategy. Slot filtering strategy, what it does, it has a method called filter slots, which takes, you know, slots in the input and the target locker item, and then it checks whether the slot can be used for the item or not. Right now we are just using size, that's why it's just checking whether the size of the slot can accommodate the size of the locker item or not. But tomorrow, if we have, you know, another factors like volume, weights, as I said, those can also be put in over here. And we have created this as a strategy because we don't want to change the same class again and again to follow the OCP principle. Tomorrow, if you have different kind of strategies, if you want to mix strategies, if you want to, you know, have different strategies at different point in times for different users, if you want to use different strategies, so all of those things can be done by using this strategy pattern. So that's why we have implemented we have created an interface, and we have implemented this thing via this implementation of that interface. So we have this method which gets called filter slots. It returns those slots which can be used for this item, right? But now again we have multiple slots available, right? Which one to use? Now there can be some priorities, there can be, you know, some pricings, there can be a lot of things, you know, which again can be there to pick a available slot. So now again we have the assignment strategy. Assignment strategy does what? It takes the, you know, it takes the list of slots, and out of that we pick one of the item. Right now, as the requirement said, it's a random allocation right now, but tomorrow there can be another kind of allocation. So that's why again we have created a strategy for it. Tomorrow, if you want to change, you know, the strategy or the allocation way that you are doing, that can be done by creating another implementation of it. So you don't have to change the existing classes again. You will be following the OCP in a better manner if you by going this strategy way. So this is like a strategy pattern we have used in both the things, slot filtering and slot assignment. So once you get the assignment out of the available slots and then the filtered slots, you get final slot which needs to be allocated. If you are not able to find any slot, then you return, you know, you throw an exception that no slot available. If you were able to do it, then you just allocate the package to it and then you return the slot. Right? That's how you do the allocate slot allocation thing. Once the slot allocation is done, after that you have to generate the OTP. What OTP does is it generates an OTP for a slot. So we take a slot in the input. OTP generator, you know, it's again a, you know, interface, and right now we have a random OTP generator which just generates 6 random, or, you know, some OTP length we have used, which is taken in the constructor. and for that length it generates 6 or whatever number you have, those many digits it generates, and then add it to the string. Again we have created an interface, and there is one implementation. It is done this way so that tomorrow if you have different kinds of OTP generation methodologies, then you can use them also. Right now we have created just random one to have one implementation. So OTP generator generates the OTP, it gives back the OTP, and then we ask the repository to store the OTP, because right now you have generated the OTP, but you have to refetch it later on when you are trying to validate it, like we just saw in the validation flow that we had, right? So that's why we have to store the OTP into the repository. And to store the OTP, we have created a slot OTP repository, and slot OTP repository, it's an in-memory repository. It's an implementation of iSlot OTP repository, and it has add OTP and get OTP. You can add an OTP to it, you can get an OTP back from it, and that's like very basic implementation. This is just a map slot ID to OTP that we have created. Right now if you see, when I'm storing the OTP, I have not created any model class for OTP. It is just done because right now we have a string for the OTP. We do not have something like expiry and all, but tomorrow if you have more things around OTP, expiry or something like that, then you can create one model class, and then you can wrap those information in a model class object, and then you can put that into the repository or somewhere. So but right now those use cases are not there, so that's why I'm just storing the slot ID to OTP. So whenever we say add OTP, we just say put it into the map on against the slot ID, and put the value is the OTP. Whenever we are getting the OTP back, we get a slot ID and we have to get the OTP. So yeah, that's what we do here. We ask the slot repository to add the OTP, and then once that is done, we return the OTP back. When we get the OTP back, we ask the notification service to notify the user. And how does that work? Right now we have not done any implementation because that would need SMS, email, those kind of stuff. Again, in the interviews, you are not expected to cover everything, to implement everything. You are expected to do those abstractions like the way I have done. I have just abstracted this out into a separate service, and that's all. I have just put a maybe a output here, like something like OTP is done, and that's all. Tomorrow if we are creating full-fledged system, we can implement this notification service, right? But for the sake of the interview, you are not expected to implement everything. Always focus on the core problem. The core problem is the lockers, not the notification service, and that's why we have just created a mock method, and then just put this print statement, and we have just implemented this way. So after the notification is done, we return the slot back which was allocated. So this is like the allocate locker or allocate slot for the user, the flow of that, right? As I said, when we store the OTP, after the OTP is stored, when the validator is called, it will again fetch the OTP back from the repository, and it will validate it as we saw it in the this unlock slot flow. Cool. Similarly, the return controller. So this order controller will be called by the system when buyer purchases something, so that they can allocate the locker for the buyer. But when we say when the buyer is returning something, then again similar flow will be there. So again it needs the locker service, notification service, OTP service. But there's one more service here, delivery person service. This is needed because whenever the user is trying to return something, we'll have to find one delivery person to fulfill that return, right? So that's why there's one more service we have created, delivery person service. Whenever again we say return controller says allocate locker, it gives the buyer or locker item, something like that. And then again it checks first of all the slot, it allocates the slot. Is the same flow, find out the item, find out all the available slots, find out the filtered slots for that available item, for the current item, and then picking one of the slot for those all the filtered slots, and then allocating it for the package that we have or the item that we have, then again generating the OTP. And now we have to figure out which delivery person we have to use, right? So we say delivery, we ask the delivery person service for that, and then here again we have not implemented it because again it was I did not have much time in the interview, so that's why I just put a to do here that we will use some kind of strategy, just like we have done for slot filtering, slot assignment. There will be a delivery person picking strategy. Why? Because because we can just pick a delivery person on various factors, maybe the rating, maybe the maybe the distance, or maybe the kind of packages the person has picked in the past. So there can be various factors on the basis of which you can pick a delivery person, and these things can keep changing, and that's why we should create a strategy here. We should create an interface, delivery person picking strategy, and then we should have one implementation of it as a default one, and then you can keep changing the implementations or keep having more implementation as and when you want to change them. Now that's what about the picking thing, right? But before that we have to find out what all delivery persons are registered, what all delivery persons we have in the system. So for that you will have to create one repository, and that repository will have delivery persons list. From that delivery persons list you will find all the delivery persons which are free, and then you will use that strategy to find out the delivery person you should use for the system. I have not implemented it for the video intentionally, because I wanted you people to think about the solution of this. I mean I have already given you the way or the path how you should implement it, how you should approach it, but the actual implementation I request you people to implement it and then open a PR on the GitHub repo. I'll be putting the link of the repo in the description, and then that's how actually you will learn. If I tell you everything, if I just walk you through the code, it will not be a very good learning. If you can implement some part of it, that will be a very good learning for it. So try to see how you can create strategy here, how you can use some kind of repository pattern here. So how you can do all of those things, try to see and try to implement this delivery person service method, right? I think that's about the returns controller. So these are all the controllers and these are all the flows that we have in the system. And since we went through all the flows, so we actually went through all the services also, but I'll just go through all the services once again to just touch upon if anything is missing. So locker service, we have some strategies and some repositories, and then we have methods for create locker, which is creating a locker, create slot, which is creating a slot, finding all the available slots, and then allocating a slot for the particular item, and then one for the deallocate slot. So these are all the methods which we have already seen in the flows of the problem. Similarly, there is OTP service and notification service, which are small ones. The main service here is the locker service, which is doing most of the work. And delivery person will also be a little bigger service, not much big, which will have some repository, have some strategies to first of all store the delivery person, find out all the free delivery person, and then finding out which one to pick. Those kind of business logics will go over there in this particular service class. Yeah, I think that's mostly about the classes and all. There are some exceptions which I have created. We have already seen the exceptions along the way. There's some repositories to store the data. I already told about them. There's some strategies now, right? Though I already showed you the strategies when we were seeing them. So I'll not cover them again, but I'll definitely tell you the benefit again for them. Like the benefit of those benefit of using the strategy pattern in general is like you get a lot of extensibility in the code. Whenever something changes, you don't have to change the existing classes and all. So for example, if let's say OTP service, let's say have the random over here only, right? For example, generate OTP is doing, we could not have created this strategy. We could have directly put this for I equals to 0 to 6 and then create a string and keep adding a random number to it. We could have done that over here, but that would lead to a non-extensible code, because if the strategy to change the generation of OTP logic changes, this class will have to change, right? OTP service will have to change, OTP service class will have to change, and that's not a very good design. But now, because we have created this strategy over here, so if the strategy of generating the OTP changes, you just have to create one more implementation of it and then inject it into the constructor. So this is giving you the good design by following the strategy pattern. So a strategy pattern is in general is very, very powerful. In my almost all the videos, you will find some strategies being implemented and you will see how it is giving the benefit. But I would say in any design, in any interview you are doing, if you try to follow strategy pattern, it's one of the most powerful thing. Okay, so yeah, that's about it. That's about the solution that I have created. Now let's see some of the solid principles they are meant, or how this design is following the solid principles. So SRP, as you see, various classes are following the SRP nicely. Locker controller is doing everything around the locker. As I said earlier, you can split the class into two responsibilities, one for the slot only and one for the locker only. But right now I have merged these two responsibilities into one because there is no need of them, right? Like, see, SRP is a very subjective principle. You can say full thing is one responsibility, I can say something is one responsibility. So it's all about what you're thinking about the one responsibility. Your responsibility should be small enough. As and when the responsibility grows, it becomes big, you just split the things, and that's how you keep following the SRP principle. So that's why I'm saying, even though it is following both locker and slots, but we are saying that this class is following everything about the locker, and that's why it's one single responsibility. Once that responsibility about the slots grows, we'll break it into two responsibilities. One is the locker and one is the slots. There is separate controller for the order, so one responsibility over there. There is separate controller for the returns. There is one responsibility over there. Similarly, every model class, if you see, they are being created for each one of their own responsibilities. Buyer and delivery person, they are created separately. Again, SRP is being followed over there. Different services are created, so SRP is followed in a very good manner. Similarly, OCP is followed in a very, very good manner over here. Again, because of the usage of good strategies, good interfaces, and those kind of stuff. I already showed you OTP service. If the way of creating the OTP changes, you don't have to modify this class. The class automatically get extended if you create the new implementation of the OTP generation strategy, right? So OCP is being followed in a very good manner. Similarly, if you see the locker service, if the way of picking the locker, if the way of filtering the locker changes, you don't have to change this locker service class. You just implement new implementation, and this class will get extended. So this class is also very much open for extension and closed for modification. Similarly, if you see all the classes in my design, they are all following good OCP principle. Interface aggregation principle, again, we have created multiple interfaces. We have not put everything into one interface. OTP generator, random generator, all of these things are created into separate interfaces. So interface aggregation principle is also followed in a very good manner. Dependency invention principle is also followed in a very good manner. All the classes you are seeing, they are creating their dependencies. They're getting their dependencies through injection. They are not creating their dependencies on their own. So it will help us in unit testing. It will help us in changing the sort of strategies and all at the runtime, and whenever something changes, you can change the strategies. So this is all doing in a very good manner. So solid principles are followed in a very good manner over here. Some of the design patterns which I already told you, we have implemented like strategy pattern we have implemented. I'll not again go into the details because I've already talked about it a lot. We have also followed repository pattern. You can see we have created repositories of the different storages we are doing, and then because of this repository pattern, you will be able to change the target, I would say, target storage location. Let's say if you have a database tomorrow, you can just create new repository for the database, and it will just work like that. So yeah, these are some of the patterns we have tried to follow. Some of the design choices I have done, as again I have done in most of my videos, is that you have non-nulls, finals. These help in clean code. I always talk about immutability. So all the model classes, especially immutability is handled correctly. In the slot, you see slot ID, slot size. These are all immutable things, right? Once a slot is created, its ID is not changeable, but its current locker item is allocation date we should be able to change because items keep going and keep coming. So that's why these two variables are mutable. I already talked about it earlier also, but just thought of highlighting it again. So some of these design, I would say design choices or something, some of these things you should keep in mind while doing any design. This will definitely help you in coming up with some good designs. So yeah, I think that's about the design we have created. Next, let's try to see some tests. So I have written few tests around OTP and slot allocation, and not go through much into detail. I'll just try to tell you what all test I have written. So this is one test I have written to test whether the OTP works correctly or not. So here we just try to create some test lockers, test users, test items and all, and then I say allocate the locker. When the allocation locker is done, we have to send, we have to generate the OTP, then send the notification to the user, right? So that's what we are checking. We are verifying, like we are verifying that notification service should get called with a buyer and with the slot that we have created, that we have allocated, and then OTP should have been generated. So we try to capture it, and then we try to unlock the slot using that, so it should be successful. So that's what we are trying to check with the OTP, like it should work correctly. The OTP that was generated for the slot, we should be able to unlock the slot by that. Similarly, OTP, if it's invalid, it should not unlock. So similarly, if we see here, we do the same thing. We do some, we create some random things, and then we try to allocate slot, and then we try to unlock that slot using a random OTP, and it gives assert flaws as success. So success is false. So that's mean we were not able to unlock it. So that are some of the tests we have written for the OTP verification. Then we have the slot verification. These are little bigger tests, but they just look bigger. They are not that difficult or complex. So again, here also we have created few lockers. We have created two lockers, one with all the locker sizes of 10x10, and another one with all the locker sizes of 5x5. So here also we create one random buyer. We create two items, each of size 7.5x5, and then we first of all check all the slots. So initially all the slots should be available. Then we allocate one slot for item 1. Then we allocate another slot for item 2. Now let's see what should be the expectation. So expectation should be initially all the slots should be available, right? So that means slot 1 that you have, it should be available in the all slots. So all slots has slot 1. Once the slot 1 is allocated to item 1, it should be unavailable. So available slots after post 1, we should not have slot 1, so it says false. Now after the slot 2 is already done, because slot 1 is already occupied, so still after the slot 2 is done, the available slots should not have slot 1, so this should also be false. Now similarly, let's see for slot 2. Initially slot 2 should be available in all the slots, so we have slot 2 in all the slots. Even after allocation of slot 1, slot 2 should still be available, right? So available slots after 1 should be having slot 2. Similarly, available slots after 2, now the slot has been booked, so it should return false. So it should not be there in the available slots post second is done. So these are some of the tests we have done. And after deallocation, we have tried some deallocation. So we tried to deallocate slot 1. So now available slot should have slot 1, but slot 2 should not be there. So it's true and it's false. And when we deallocate 2, then both the slots should become available. So both the available slots should be there in the get available slots. So these are some of the one test we have written for slot allocation and deallocation strategies, or actually the flows. I should not say strategy because it gets confused with the strategy pattern. So this is the slot flow that we have tested in this test. Two small tests I have written to write the test when in the case when either there are no slots or if there are no slots available for the item. So if there are no slots, it returns no slot available exception. If all the slots that we have 5 cross 5 but we are trying to put 10 cross 10, that means no available slot is there for the given item, because 10 cross 10 would not fit in 5 cross 5, right? So that's why we get no slot available exception for this also. So yeah, these are the tests that I have written. They are definitely not I would say the complete test. You can definitely try to write more tests. There are some further improvements I have written, very small further improvement, like you can also start passing the locker while allocating. There are many things I think along the way which we saw which can be implemented more. One thing like delivery person and those kind of stuff. I would definitely again suggest you to try to think about those implementations, try to write those implementations, because those things will give you the actual learning. And if you do that, like try to open a PR on my on the repository. I think we all can collaborate with each other. We can all see each other PRs, and we can suggest them things like how things can be improved, what thing they can do better, and those kind of stuff. That's how all of us will learn. So yeah, just one last thing here. I've put the link, I've put the code on the GitHub, and I'll put the link of that GitHub repo in the description. This is the GitHub repo, and I'll put the link of this in the description. That's all about it towards the in the design and in the solution. I think I hope you like the video and you get to learn something from it. You get to learn how to design, how to come up with the classes, how to approach classes, how to think about various strategies, how strategies help. So I just hope you get something out of it, some benefit, some learning you get from this video. If you like the video, do like it, do share it with your friends. If you have any feedback, any suggestions, if you think I'm doing a good thing, if you're getting any benefit, do put it in the comments. It will give me some motivation. Also please try to subscribe to the channel. It will definitely help me. So thanks a lot once again. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and yeah, take care. Bye.